Hi everyone, Jesse here with eTrailer. Today we'll be taking a look at, and I'll show you how to install the Blue Ox base plate on our 2025 Chevrolet Trax. So there's 5 main components when you're looking to set up your vehicle for flat towing, starting with our base plate. That's going to be the structural point of the towed vehicle that will help connect it to the motorhome, and it connects through our second main component, which is our tow bar here. This is just the physical link between motorhome and towed vehicle. Then we have our braking system. That's going to allow you to use the towed vehicle's brakes to help your motorhome come to a stop. And we have our safety cables. Those are here as a last resort in case of a catastrophic disconnect. These will help hold everything together so you can get pulled over safely. And our diode wiring, that's there to keep you safe and legal when you're towing your vehicle by allowing the motorhome to send a signal to the towed vehicle's taillights so other drivers can know when you're turning or stopping or even see you better at night. So this is what the base plate will look like when you're hooked up and ready to tow. We have our safety cable loop here. It's pretty easy to access even with this large clevis that we have. And then our removable arm. Anytime you're unhooking, you'll just simply pull your clip out, slide your pin out, and get your arm out of the way. So as I said, this is a removable arm, so if you were looking to just drive around in your vehicle and not tow it, you can just pull that pin, give it a quarter turn, it'll slide out, and that kind of gives you that nice factory look. This base plate will work with almost any tow bar out there on the market. As you can see, our neighbor has this Blue Ox tow bar and it fits right in. If you do have a different brand with different ends, we do sell adapters here at eTrailer that are super easy to install. Speaking of the install, for the base plate, it is quite a lengthy process. You do have to remove the front fascia of the vehicle and then drill a couple holes in it. So if it's not something that you're looking to do yourself, maybe you don't have the time, the space, or the tools to do so, feel free to check out our dealer locator. If you are looking to get this installed yourself, then follow along and I'll walk you through the whole process. Also, if you've installed this base plate before and you want to share some tips or tricks with us, please feel free to leave a review or a comment. We'll begin our installation by removing 6 T15 Torx screws. Now in our wheel well here, we have 3 T15 Torx to remove. Next, we'll need to get this black piece off our fender guard. And one thing to note is anything from this point on that we do on one side, we'll do on the other side. It should be essentially the same process, but with this, it should just be held in with clips. So we'll just work our way up. And we don't have to take this all the way off. We just need to get past the point where the fascia mounts up to the vehicle. Once we get to about here, you'll see a bolt. That's what we'll have to remove. So we pulled it back far enough. I'll just take a pile of shop rags and kind of jam it in there just to make sure that this isn't hitting our vehicle. Now we'll remove that bolt that I talked about with a 7mm socket. Now underneath the vehicle, on each side, we'll have 3 more T15 screws to remove. Then there's 3 more going across the center on the bottom side of our fascia. Now we have some 7mm screws to remove here. Now we have 2 push pin fasteners to remove down here. If you have a tool like this, it's really nice, but you could just use a flathead screwdriver to pop that center piece out. Then the entire thing should come out with it. Now you'll need an extra set of hands to help you take the fascia off. I have my friend Kevin here to help me, but should just be able to pull out from the sides. Gonna work our way from the outside in. Just held in by clips at this point. And once you get to this light, you'll just pull straight forward. Make sure you lift it up over your rubber stoppers. And before we pull it out too far, just double check, see if there's any wiring connections, which it looks like we have one right here. So on this side of the pin, there's a red locking tab. Put that back. Should unplug. And then this end of our connector is still clipped in, so just have to kind of work that out. Next we'll be removing this plastic shroud here. Should be 2 push pin fasteners, 1 on each side. Pop those out. And then there's some clips on the bottom side that should just be able to kind of push up on them to release. While pulling out. And we'll just kind of shimmy it down and out. We have 4 bolts on each side on our bumper beam. They're going to be 15 millimeters. Get those removed. We have 2 13 millimeter bolts kind of tucked down in here. There'll be 2 on the other side. Before you remove the last 2, just make sure you're holding on to this plastic trim piece. And we'll set it aside. Now we need to cut this tab of our intercooler. So we're just going to have to be really careful not to actually go into the intercooler. I'd recommend using a Dremel, something that you can be very accurate with. But you can kind of see where I marked. We're just cutting that tab that's sticking out. Now we're going to work on getting our washer fluid reservoir out of our way. I'm not going to remove it fully. You could do that if you wanted. You would just have to empty it out into a clean container. But I'll start up here on our neck. There's a push pin fastener. Just take that out. And with that out, our neck should just kind of wiggle out. Just got some rubber gaskets holding it in. Now we have some 10 millimeter nuts to remove. There's one up here. And this one's in tight corners, so I'm just going to use a ratcheting wrench. Once you loosen it up, you should be able to get it by hand. Get that out. So we'll lift our reservoir up above that stud. We'll just kind of have to twist our reservoir and lift it above this stud. And I'm going to find some way to support it with a strap just so it's not relying on the hoses to hold it up. We'll remove these 3 10 millimeter nuts that are letting our bumper beam hang here. You'll want to hold on to it. Looks like there's some push pins holding it on, probably one on each side, so we'll get those removed. Now we need to widen out our holes towards the outside. So I'm just going to use a carbide burr bit and get this a little bit farther towards the outside on both sides. I reinstalled our bumper once I slotted out those holes just with these 3 10mm bolts because our base plate will slide behind it. Slide that up into place, try to get our holes to line up, and then I'll get one bolt started. Once you have one bolt started on both sides, just try to get everything centered as good as possible, and then we'll install the rest of the hardware. Each of these bolts will get some red thread locker, so I'll get these in, and then I'll also take those ones out and apply it. We'll just get all of our hardware reinstalled. Now on our passenger side, we need to mock up our bracket because we'll have to drill a hole to get our top bolt through. So just slide it into place. It does install with this angle on the front on the top. Get this slid back here. Reach up above the skid plate, get that lower rear bolt installed. And I'll put one bolt on the front. So with that all lined up, I'm just going to take a punch and try to punch the center of this hole as it's lined up. So my punch wasn't strong enough to punch all the way through to this side where we'll be drilling. But I was able to get my right angle drill up into place with a really small drill bit and drill a pilot hole through it. If you don't have something like this and you're not able to get in there, worst case scenario is you'll have to just mock it up and kind of guess and then start drilling your 1/2-inch hole from the outside in. So I have that hole drilled out. It did take a little bit just to get the right angle. I just recommend slowly stepping up your drill bit size until you get to 1/2 inch. And now we're ready to get our side bracket installed. Just gonna slide it back. And we'll install our front bolts. They're gonna be the smaller bolts. Get those slid through. And don't forget to put a dab of thread locker on there, but on the inside we'll put some nylon lock nuts on. We'll get our back bolts lined up and take our larger bolts and a flat washer, get that slid into place. Now on the inside we'll go flat washer, then split washer. Get those slid over one of your bolts. Then you'll have one of these whiz nuts with a stick on it. I just like to bend it so I can get it into place. And just get that threaded on. It's a similar process on the driver's side. The only other step is you will need to unclip this wiring harness. And I also unclipped it from up here just to give me some more space, but from there you just kind of work around it. Now we can tighten down all of our hardware. I already tightened down our bumper beam bolts, but we'll start with our back bolts for the base plate. It'll be 3/4. Both those bolts snug down, and then we'll tighten down the front bolts. With those back bolts tightened, we'll tighten down our front bolts with a 15mm socket and wrench. Now we'll torque our hardware down to the specification listed in the instructions. Once everything's torqued down, we can remove our handles. Should just be able to kind of wiggle it back and forth, and eventually it'll break off. Now we need to install our safety cables. These are just here in case anything we installed gets disconnected while we're on the road. So our main goal is to just get this wrapped around a sturdy part of the vehicle, like the frame or the body. We'll also want to try to avoid any hoses or getting it wrapped around any wires. So that's why I'm going under this wire here. And I'll actually wrap it around there twice because we have a bit of slack if we don't do that. Let's just get it worked around there twice. And then we'll bring it up here. You'll see I already slipped on our quick link. We'll just get both ends of our cable into that quick link and tighten it down. Now while the fascia is still off, it's a good idea to start running your other flat toe components. As you can see, I've already started on my 6-pole and my braking system. We will have to do some trimming to the fascia before it's reinstalled, so whenever I get to that point, we'll come back and I'll show you what I cut out. So the instructions will kind of lay it out how you'll need to cut it, but I've marked it here. We do have to unhook that or unclip that ambient air sensor that will be relocated, but we're just going to cut around that corner there and cut here on this side, and this whole piece will come out. On the other side, it's same process, just a little bit easier. We'll just cut there, and that piece will pop out. I'm using a multi-tool. You could use a Dremel or something like that, but I'm going to use this. So we got those cut out. I'll come back through with a razor blade and clean up the messy cuts. But after that, we're ready to mock this up and make sure it fits. Now that we have the fascia reinstalled and we know everything fits right, that's going to do it for our look at and installation of the Blue Ox base plate on our 2025 Chevrolet Trax.